All right, what is going on, guys? Got a breakdown for UFC Vegas 41. This one's at welterweight. We got Francisco Trinaldo taking on Dwight Grant. So Grant's gonna have the reach advantage. He's also taller. Grant's got very long arms, so he typically does have a reach advantage over his opponents. I'll start with him. So trains out of AKA, been there for a long time, and not the most active fighter, but he's definitely shown some very good positives. He's got a ton of power. It's crazy. And I mentioned those long arms, so he gets punches in from weird angles. And he's got a couple crazy knockouts, especially on the Contender Series. Got a good win over Alan Joban. At least record wise, it's a good win. Talk about it in a second. And then most impressive thing he's done in the UFC was he almost knocked out Daniel Rodriguez. The argument could be made that the fight should have been stopped. I think he was still fighting out of it, but he definitely got a lot of time to recover. He dropped him, ate a lot of follow up shots, and then Daniel Rodriguez was able to bounce back, knock him out. The shots that he hit Grant with, Rodriguez, the shots Rodriguez hit Grant with, were a lot cleaner, and Grant definitely looked like he was stunned pretty bad, but he didn't get as much time as Rodriguez to recover, so it's kind of a shitty night for Dwight Grant, but I mean, he's won three of his last four. But I'll tell you the problem with Dwight Grant is he just doesn't throw. Very low output. Both of these guys, pretty low output, but with Grant, he just doesn't really seem to take chances. And his last couple fights, like against Stefan Sekulic, he won that one split decision, but barely did anything. I mean, hit him with a couple clean shots in the first round, and then I thought Sekulic did enough to win. I mean, it was just nobody was really landing much. Sekulic had a couple takedowns late, had some control against the fence, and I thought that Sekulic. I mean, I thought yeah, Sekulic won that fight. So and then the same thing against Alan Joban. Again, neither guy does anything, but Grant hits him with some clean shots again in the first, some really clean shots. Just again a ton of power with this guy, but Joe Ban's coming forward the whole time, slightly outlands, and I mean slightly. Like we're talking like 10-8 strikes wise, and that's just the story with a lot of Dwight Grant's fights. Like guys don't necessarily want to open up on him because he's got a ton of power, but at the same time he doesn't really open up himself. And he got another split decision there. Again, could have gone either way. I would have leaned Joe Ban in that one. Just again a battle where nobody does anything, and Joe Ban has a little bit more forward pressure. But yeah, he lost to Zach Adow a while ago. Beat Tyler Hill in the Contender Series, which was a crazy knockout. You gotta go watch that one. But yeah, he gets those windmill type punches that you don't see too often in MMA. You just don't have enough space. But yeah, when this guy hits clean, ton of power. It's just he maybe lands like one or two clean shots a fight. And then for Francisco Trinaldo, coming in 43 years old, but still looks good. One of these veterans who is not only fighting, but he's fighting at a high level and he's fighting guys that are very much competitive in the division. Like we just saw Andre Arlovsky and Jim Miller on this last card, two other examples of that. Because sometimes you'll see these fighters hanging around and they'll get matched up with, like, perfect example, Diaz Lawler, like, something like that. Doesn't really have any stakes for the division. It's just a fun fight to make for the fans, sweeten up a card or a pay per view, something like that. But not Trinaldo. He fights legitimate contenders or, just guys in the division. And he's in one of the toughest divisions. But yeah, he's fought a ton of names over the years. The only guy to stop Paul Felder, TKO with a bad cut over the eye. I think he won that Alexander Hernandez fight. That was just two guys looking to counter, but Trinaldo was coming forward more, and I thought he won that. That was in Hernandez's hometown, so I got a little lucky there. But yeah, you just go down the list. He's fought multiple generations of fighters here. Won some, lost some. Beat Jim Miller, beat Yancy Medeiros, Ross Pearson. Lost to Kevin Lee, but he had some success in that fight. Lost to James Vick, but James Vick had a solid career. And then most recently lost to Muslim Salikov, but again looked very competitive in that fight. Salikov has a lot of knockouts and shows that the chin is still there for Trinaldo. I think that is why this line is close. It's just when you get to 43 years old, you have all this wear and tear. It doesn't matter how tough you are because Trinaldo is one of the toughest. Just eventually the wheels are going to come off the bus. So I guess that's why Trinaldo's only a minus 120 favorite. You got a knockout guy versus an older fighter, but I think his chin's still there. You definitely see that in the Jai Herbert fight. Gets dropped in that one, eats a ton of shots, and looked like he was toast. Looked so labored in that second round after winning the first round. But then he just comes back in the third, looks so refreshed, lures Herbert into a brawl, ends up knocking him out. The beautiful overhand, and so that's a great win. I'm probably gonna pick Jay Herbert to beat Kama Worthy, finishing up tape on that. But I think Jay Herbert's still a game fighter. He's had a tough test in the UFC, so that was a grueling fight too. You know, Trinaldo got pushed to the limit, and he came out in the third round strong, ate some clean shots, and I think a lot of the questions that are tricky for Trinaldo going into this fight. You watch that Jay Herbert fight and you feel a lot better about him. At least I do. And then he beats Bobby Green at the end of 2019. John Makdessi, who looked good his last fight. So yeah, he's still game. And the thing with Trinaldo is he's another guy, kind of low volume, but I think he has a slightly higher output than Grant. And I also think he has better counters than Grant. Grant can leave himself a little extended on these counters. I mean, on some of his strikes. When he does go for it, he leaves himself extended and he's open to getting hit. And Trinaldo is a very good counter striker. He's going to make that read. And I think he's going to clip him with something pretty nasty. But on top of that, I just think that Trinaldo has the more well rounded game. And when it comes down to this one, I think it's just going to be a case of, gritty veteran just doing gritty veteran things. I definitely like Trinaldo to win this fight. But Grant's dangerous, so you could hedge with a Grant knockout. But yeah, I think Trinaldo better in the clinch, better grappler. He's got good submission threat, and I for this price, I just think that there's a lot more pros. More fights, um, better fight IQ, better aggression, better counters, better grappler, better in the clinch. And Grant, though, it's just again he's dangerous. He's violent. He's got that crazy, crazy power. But yeah, I definitely got to go with Trinaldo. Just more pass, more well-rounded fighter, and the things that would worry you about a 43-year-old fighter. Like I said, I'm not too worried. I think we just saw it this weekend. We saw Jim Miller and Andre Arlovski. These guys are still fighting at a high level. I think Trinaldo is in that same tier. He's just still game. And then you look at the line for this one, -122 money line for Trinaldo. I like this a lot. I'm gonna make a straight play on it right away. I'm gonna put at least a unit on it, and then we'll see what we can get for props. But honestly, probably not gonna mess with a prop in this one, because my initial lean, if I was gonna have to pick a prop, I would say Trinaldo by decision. I think he just grinds this one out. But I do like. I mean, it's just the way Grant extends himself on some of these counters. I mean, on some of these crazy overhands. He leaves himself wide open for counters, and I think Trinaldo is going to take advantage of that. And Grant just looks a little tentative. I don't know if Trinaldo sees the finish or sees a path to it, he's going to jump on it. So I don't know. I think that Trinaldo could get the finish, but I would say 60% of the time he just grinds this one out. But like I said, that route to Grant getting countered pretty bad is definitely there. So we'll have to see what we get for props. But for right now, definitely like the money line. Trinaldo, gonna put at least one unit on it, and we'll see what else we do with it later in the week. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Share, subscribe, and take it easy.